Okay, y'all, this is a Ambassadeur 6500. It's a C3. I'm going to do a bearing upgrade with Boca Bearing. This is Boca Bearing Lightning Bearings, Orange Seal, ABEX 7s. I'm going to show you how to install them in this 6500 C3. What you're going to need is a flathead screwdriver. I use a little angled pick and a Q-tip, and then a little tool I made from one of my daughter's bobby pins. I'll show you what to do there in just a minute. But normally on these Ambassadors, when I do them, I'll normally take the non-handle side off. In this case, I'm going to take the handle side off because this has the clicker plate on it, which is a little difficult to get on and off, so it's going to be easier to take the handle side off to do it. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take the tension knob off. You're going to want to remove that before you try to remove the spool and the spool shaft. Reason being, it has a little spool shaft retainer inside there that is going to stick if you don't. Once you get that off, loosen the 3 screws that hold that plate on. And once you get that off, just set the handle side to the side there and remove the spool. Go ahead and pull the drive shaft out there. I usually wipe off any grease or oil that might be on there. There's a little bit, not much. You're not going to want any of that on there. Okay, so for the Q-tip, you're going to use that when you get the bearings out to clean out the rest of the oil or anything that's in there. So you take your little pick here, or you could even use a screwdriver, either or. Pop your brake off, and hopefully the bearing just slides right out. That one did. If it doesn't, that's what my little tool that I made is for. Sometimes they kind of stick a little bit if they're a little, rusty or whatever. This little bobby pin, I just have a little 90-degree turn. I don't know if you can see it there or not, but or a little 90-degree bend on the end. And if it sticks, if the bearing sticks, you can stick it down inside there and pull it out. These bearings won't come out if you try to pull them out at an angle. You've got to pull them out straight, so that's what I use that for if need be. The little shim here that came out, when you go back together, don't forget that goes on the brake side. Pop the little plastic gear off the other side there and pull your other bearing out. Both of those came out really easy. Like I said, sometimes they don't. So get your bearings. Now I'm going to install these dry. Most people prefer them dry. I do also, because it keeps the speed of the bearing up. It will make a little more noise than a standard bearing, than a standard stainless bearing, but it's because it's ceramic. But they are built for speed, so I put them in dry. If you prefer them to be a little quieter, you can put a drop of Boca Bearings lightning lube that they sell in each one. You just remove the orange seal there and drop 1 drop in it. Don't use any more than a drop, and that'll quiet them down some. But you will sacrifice a little of the speed of the bearing too. It will still be a lot faster and a lot nicer than a standard bearing, but it will be slower than it would be if it was dry. So anyhow, I always install mine dry for that reason. Just drop your first bearing in there. Put the gear back on. Now it should kind of click in place. Same thing on the other side. Now on your shim, the shim is it's going to be kind of curved. I don't know if you can see that there or not, but it's got a little bit of a curve on it. You want that to kind of be the curve to be pointed up, I guess. Instead of being down, you want it pointed up. I don't know how to explain that any better, but anyhow. Just drop the shim down in there, and then drop your bearing in. If the spool is in good shape and it's not real dirty, the bearing should slide right in. I forgot to do this, so I'm gonna pull this bearing back out. This spool is pretty clean. It doesn't have really any kind of oil or dirt to speak of, it doesn't look like, but that's what the Q-tip's for. You're going to want to clean that hole out, make sure there's no dirt, old oil, or anything like that in it. This one's nice and clean. So put that back in. Put your shim back in. Now some people I've heard will run this other bearing on the brake side without the shim. I've tried it both ways and I don't really see any difference, but the engineers that designed the reel put it in there for a reason, so I always put it back in. So once you get that brake side bearing back in, you clip that brake back on, and then slide your drive shaft, your spool shaft, back in, and I can already see a big difference there. Okay, so now you're going to put your your spool back in. Just obviously line the end of the shaft up into the plate and the hole there, and then you're going to reinstall your handle side. Same deal here. I'll usually use this Q-tip if there's some excess oil or whatever there. Like I said, this one's pretty clean and pretty nice shape, but I'll use that to kind of clean up a little bit there, make sure there's nothing. So when you put this back on, remember your spool release button is going to be angled towards you, so you want to just slide it right over there. There's a couple notches on this brake that have to line up with the notches in the pinion gear, so that is a little difficult to get lined up, and that's part of the reason why I will typically take the other side off, but in this case I didn't. So just put it on there, kind of wiggle the spool till the teeth on the brake line up with the lines on the pinion gear. Tighten down your little nuts here on the side plate. And just snug them down. I usually will just a little above finger tight. Not real tight. Alright, now here's where the pick also comes in. You want to get this little retainer out of the cap and install it first. So this little retainer, what this does is it holds the shaft, the spool shaft, and keeps it from moving around. And a lot of people will get this wrong. But you can't really see it in the video here, but on the drive shaft here, there's a couple notches. There's one on each side, and this little piece, this retainer, the notches are going to fit here and there. Okay, and a lot of people will get this wrong and get it installed incorrectly, and then it doesn't work right and it affects the speed of the reel. So you want to turn it till you can see those little notches, and then get that little brake retainer on the notches like that. Once you get that on, put your cap back on. Now here's another deal you need to be sure you do. You want to screw that cap all the way down and then back it back off, because that's going to secure that retainer inside the cap and help keep the drive shaft from moving around there. So the tension on this, you want it to be, you want just a small amount of side-to-side movement, not too much. Yes, that's a huge difference there, you see. We'll do a free spool test to see if I can do it here. Definitely hear the difference in the bearings, but you can see the difference too. This is a great upgrade on pretty much any bait casting or spinning reel, but definitely something to do on an Ambassadeur for sure. Thanks for watching.